Chosen one, pause for a moment and breathe this in, because this is not noise, this is not coincidence, and this is not another message passing through your screen by accident. Something aligned for you to be here right now, to hear these words at this exact time, with your spirit already feeling that quiet pull you couldn't explain. January 9 carries a weight not because of fear, not because of pressure, but because of awareness. There are moments when heaven leans closer, when the signal becomes clearer, and when the whisper you've been sensing turns into a firm nudge. This is one of those moments you've felt it building, haven't you? That sense that time is moving differently, that things you once tolerated no longer sit right, that your heart has been restless even when your life looked calm on the surface. That restlessness is not confusion, it's preparation. You've been called many things by people who didn't understand you. Too intense, too sensitive, too quiet, too different. But heaven has always called you chosen, not because you were better than others, but because you were willing to carry weight that others refused to hold. You've walked through seasons where it felt like you were doing everything right and still losing. Seasons where prayers felt unanswered, doors stayed closed, and silence felt heavier than rejection. But silence was never absence. It was training. It was strengthening your discernment, sharpening your spirit, teaching you how to stand without applause. Some of the strongest work God does happens when no one is watching. Right now there is urgency in the air. Not panic, not chaos, but clarity. You are being urged to pay attention because distractions have been loud lately. Old habits have tried to creep back in. Old connections have tested your boundaries. Doubt has tried to speak in a familiar voice. And yet, here you are, still standing, still listening, still open. That's not an accident. That's obedience in motion. Heaven is saying, do not scroll past this moment. Do not delay what you already know you need to face. And do not silence the conviction you've been feeling after midnight when everything else goes quiet. Before 11 p.m. is not about superstition or numbers alone. It's about alignment. It's about a window of decision, a moment where intention meets action. You've been given insight others don't have, and with insight comes responsibility. You don't get to unknow what you know. You don't get to pretend you didn't feel that pull. This is the point where small choices carry big consequences, where obedience opens doors that effort alone never could. God is not asking you to be perfect. He is asking you to be present, fully honest, fully willing. There is something you've been postponing, telling yourself you'll deal with it later when things slow down, when you feel more ready, when circumstances are easier, but later has been costing you peace. That delay has been draining your energy, clouding your joy, and keeping you just slightly out of alignment. You know exactly what this is about. It might be a conversation you've avoided, a habit you've justified, a step of faith you've talked yourself out of. Whatever it is, you don't need more confirmation. This message is the confirmation. You were never meant to fit neatly into systems that thrive on fear and sameness. You were designed to see through illusion, to sense shifts before they happen, to carry light into places that resist it. That's why pressure has followed you. That's why opposition has risen without explanation. Light exposes things, and not everyone is comfortable with exposure. But understand this clearly, the resistance you faced was never proof you were wrong. It was proof you mattered. Right now, heaven is asking you to check your heart. Posture. Are you still trying to carry burdens you were never meant to hold alone? Are you still explaining yourself to people who already decided not to understand you? Are you still negotiating with what God already made clear? Release does not mean failure. Surrender does not mean weakness. Sometimes the bravest thing a chosen one can do is let go. You are closer than you think, closer to breakthrough, closer to clarity, closer to the version of yourself that no longer doubts their worth or direction. But closeness requires honesty. You can't step into what's next while clinging to what's familiar. Comfort has a way of disguising itself as safety, but growth often feels like standing on the edge before you see the bridge appear. January 9th is not marking an ending, but a turning, a moment where awareness becomes action, where listening becomes obedience, where faith stops being theoretical and starts being lived. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where refinement happens. But refinement requires heat, and you felt that heat. Sleepless nights, heavy thoughts, sudden clarity followed by emotional waves. That's not imbalance, that's transition. God is not distant from your questions. He is not threatened by your doubts. He is inviting you deeper beyond surface level belief into trust that moves even when answers are incomplete. You don't need the full map, you only need the next step, and the next step has been placed in front of you again and again, through signs, through inner nudges, through moments like this one that stop you in your tracks. Pay attention to who has been leaving your life lately. And who has been showing up unexpectedly? Pay attention to what no longer excites you and what suddenly feels heavy. These are signals. Alignment always brings shifts. Some people can't go where you're going, not because they're bad, but because their assignment is different. Bless them, release them, and keep moving before the night closes, before the noise of the world pulls you back into autopilot. Take this moment seriously, not with fear, but with reverence. Still your mind, quiet your environment, speak honestly, even if your words come out messy. Heaven responds to sincerity, not performance. And as you do, you may feel a subtle shift, a lightness, a clarity that doesn't scream but settles. You have survived things that should have broken you. You have endured silence that would have sent others running. You have stayed soft in a world that tried to harden you. That alone speaks volumes about the strength placed inside you. And now that strength is being called forward, not for ego, not for validation, but for purpose. This is not the moment to shrink. This is not the season to doubt yourself again. You didn't come this far to stop at the threshold. The message is clear, the timing is intentional, and your spirit already knows what to do next. Stay here with this awareness. Let it sink deeper. Let it rearrange priorities. Let it strip away excuses gently but firmly, because what's coming next requires a clearer, lighter, more focused version of you. And that version is already forming, already awakening, already responding to the call that has been echoing inside you, waiting for you to finally move, to finally trust, to finally step forward without needing one more sign, because this moment itself was never meant to be ignored. And as the hours continue to unfold and the night draws closer, there is still more being revealed, more being stirred, and more that needs to be said as you remain open, attentive, and willing to continue listening beyond what feels comfortable, beyond what feels familiar, and into the unfolding message that is still moving toward you. Because what is unfolding now is not meant to shock you, it's meant to steady you. There is a calm strength being poured into you even as you read, a reminder that you are not navigating this moment alone. You may have felt isolated in ways you couldn't explain, surrounded by people yet unseen, successful on the outside yet quietly stretched on the inside. That tension was never punishment. It was alignment pulling you out of old skins that could no longer contain what you're becoming. Growth often feels lonely right before it feels liberating. You've noticed how your tolerance for superficial things has thinned. Conversations that once entertained you now feel empty. Goals that once drove you now feel incomplete. This isn't boredom, and it isn't ingratitude. It's refinement. When God begins preparing you for greater clarity, distractions lose their shine. You start craving depth, truth, and meaning, even if you can't fully articulate why. That craving is sacred. Don't numb it. Don't rush past it. Sit with it long enough to hear what it's teaching you. There has been a quiet pruning happening behind the scenes. Things you didn't consciously choose to let go of started slipping away anyway. Plans shifted. Delays showed up uninvited. Detours interrupted your timelines. And at first, it felt frustrating, even unfair. But now, if you're honest, you can see how some of those interruptions protected you from paths that would have drained you later. Not every closed door was rejection. Some were rescue disguised as inconvenience. You are being trained to move with discernment instead of impulse, to listen before reacting, to respond instead of defending. That's why situations lately have required more patience than usual. You're being asked to pause where you once rushed, to stay silent where you once explained yourself, to trust where you once demanded proof. This isn't about suppressing your voice, it's about strengthening it, so when you speak, it carries authority instead of anxiety. There is also healing happening in places you didn't know were still tender. Old wounds you thought you'd moved past have resurfaced, not to reopen you, but to finally release what was buried. Memories, feelings, questions you never had answers for. This is not regression, this is completion. Healing doesn't always feel gentle at first, but it always leaves you freer than before. Let the process finish its work. You've been wondering if you missed something, if you waited too long, if others somehow moved ahead while you stood still. But what you call standing still was actually rooting. While others were chasing quick results, you were being anchored. Depth takes time, strength takes pressure, wisdom takes experience, and what's being built in you now will outlast trends, seasons, and opinions. Heaven is reminding you that comparison has no place in your calling. The moment you measure your journey against someone else's, you disconnect from your own rhythm. Your timing is intentional. Your pace is precise. What unfolds for you will make sense only when viewed from your unique path. Stay in your lane, not out of limitation, but out of trust. There is a deeper invitation being extended to you now, one that goes beyond surface belief and into lived faith. It's an invitation to stop negotiating with fear, to stop waiting for perfect conditions, and to move forward with quiet confidence. You don't need to announce every step. You don't need approval to obey. Some of the most powerful shifts happen quietly, without witnesses, without applause. You've been learning how to hear truth beneath noise, how to recognize peace even when circumstances are uncertain, how to sense when something NG looks good but isn't right for you. That discernment is a gift. Protect it. Don't override it to please others or to avoid discomfort. Every time you honor that inner knowing, you strengthen the connection guiding you. Notice how your intuition has sharpened. How you feel things before they're spoken, how you sense energy shifts in rooms and conversations. This isn't imagination, it's awareness expanding. With awareness comes responsibility, not to control outcomes, but to choose wisely. You're being trusted with more insight because you've proven you can carry it with humility. There are blessings forming that won't arrive loudly. They won't announce themselves with fireworks. They will arrive as opportunities that feel strangely aligned, as conversations that open unexpected doors, as moments where everything simply clicks. Stay present so you don't miss them by looking for something dramatic when something divine arrives quietly. You are also being asked to revisit your definition of strength. Strength is not always pushing harder. Sometimes it's resting without guilt, saying no without explanation, choosing peace over proving a point. Strength can look like boundaries that protect your energy, routines that ground you, and faith that doesn't panic when timelines stretch. Right now, there is a recalibration happening between your heart and your actions. What you value is being asked to match how you live. Integrity isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. Small adjustments now will prevent big corrections later. Listen closely to what feels off, even if you can't logically explain it yet. Logic will catch up. Trust leads first. You've been carrying responsibility early in life. Maturity forced by circumstances that required you to grow faster than others. That weight shaped you, but it doesn't define you. You are allowed joy. You are allowed ease. You are allowed moments where you're not holding everything together. Release the belief that rest equals weakness. Rest is strategy. There's something sacred about the season you're entering, something that will require you to be fully present rather than constantly preparing for what's next. You spent years surviving, planning, anticipating. Now you're being invited to inhabit your life, not just endure it. To notice beauty without waiting for permission. To celebrate progress without minimizing it. Pay attention to the words you speak over yourself. They matter more than you think. Replace harsh self-judgment with honest compassion. You're not behind, you're becoming. Speak to yourself the way heaven speaks to you, with truth and grace, not pressure and condemnation. You are also learning that not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Privacy is not secrecy, it's wisdom. Some things need time to grow before they're shared. Guard your vision. Not everyone will understand it in seed form, and misunderstanding can crush what hasn't matured yet. As this night continues to unfold, you may feel emotions rise without clear cause. Let them pass through without resistance. Emotion is movement, not weakness. Suppressed feelings, slow progress. Acknowledged feelings, clear the path. You don't need to analyze everything right now. Awareness alone is enough. You're being reminded that obedience doesn't always make sense immediately. Sometimes it only makes sense in hindsight. But peace often arrives the moment you decide to trust. That peace is your compass. Follow it, even if the road ahead looks unfamiliar. There are conversations coming that will require honesty without harshness, truth without defense. Prepare your heart, not your arguments. Speak from alignment, not from wounds. When you do, your words will carry weight beyond volume. You have outgrown some versions of yourself, and that's okay. Grieve them if you need to. Thank them for getting you here, then let them go. You don't need to drag old identities into new seasons. Travel light. The path ahead will require consistency more than intensity. Small, faithful steps repeated daily will build what sudden bursts never could. Stay committed even when motivation dips. Discipline rooted in purpose will carry you farther than emotion ever will. Remember, you were never chosen to be comfortable. You were chosen to be clear, clear in values, clear in direction, clear in spirit. Clarity brings peace even when it brings change. As you continue listening, as the hours move forward, there is still more unfolding beneath the surface. Layers of understanding are aligning, insights are settling into place, and what once felt confusing is slowly arranging itself into meaning. Stay with this moment, stay open, stay receptive. This message is still alive, still moving, still speaking to parts of you that words haven't reached yet, and as you remain here, breathing steadily, heart attentive, there is more coming, more being revealed, and more waiting to rise as you continue forward in this unfolding awareness. Not rushing, not concluding, but allowing the message to deepen, expand, and continue shaping what is still becoming clear within you. Because this season is not asking you to rush toward answers, it's asking you to become still enough to recognize truth when it arrives. There is a difference between waiting and listening, and you are being trained in the deeper posture now. Waiting can feel passive, heavy, uncertain. Listening is active, alert, grounded. You're not stalled, you're attuned. And what you're learning to hear in this quiet will guide you more accurately than noise ever could. You may have noticed how certain desires have softened, not because you gave up, but because your spirit recalibrated. Things you once chased now feel unnecessary. Validation that once mattered now feels hollow. This is not loss of ambition, it's purification of motive. When intention becomes clean, effort becomes lighter. You're being freed from striving so your actions can flow. Ram alignment instead of pressure. There has also been a strengthening of your inner spine. You don't react the way you used to. You pause, you observe, you choose. That's growth. That's authority forming. Emotional maturity doesn't announce itself loudly. It shows up as steadiness under stress, compassion without self-betrayal, confidence without the need to dominate. You are stepping into that steadiness now. Notice how you're no longer drawn into every argument, how you no longer need to correct every misunderstanding. Silence has become less threatening and more powerful. This is because you're learning that peace doesn't require permission. It requires discernment. Not every battle is yours, and not every opinion deserves a response. Your energy is sacred. Spend it wisely. There are patterns breaking within you that once felt permanent. Cycles of overthinking, loops of self-doubt, emotional reactions rooted in old experiences. You didn't force these changes. They're dissolving naturally because awareness is doing its work. Light doesn't argue with darkness. It simply arrives and darkness adjusts. That's what's happening inside you. You've been sensing that something new is forming, but it hasn't taken shape yet. That in-between space can feel uncomfortable, like standing between breaths. But it's also where creation happens. Don't rush to label it. Don't demand clarity before it's ready. Trust the process that has carried you this far without dropping you. There is a gentler confidence rising in you now. Not the kind that needs to prove itself, but the kind that knows when to move and when to wait. This confidence comes from alignment, not control. It allows you to trust timing without anxiety, to release outcomes without apathy, to show up fully without attachment. Pay attention to the way your body responds to truth. When something aligns, there's a sense of calm recognition, even if it challenges you. When something is off, there's tension, heaviness, resistance. Your body has become an instrument of discernment. Listen to it. It will guide you when your mind starts to spiral. You are also being reminded that your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a tuning mechanism. You feel deeply because you're designed to perceive layers others miss. The key is learning how to protect that sensitivity without shutting it down. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They allow love in while keeping chaos out. As this awareness deepens, you may feel called to simplify, to declutter not just your space, but your commitments, your relationships, your mental load. Simplicity creates room for clarity. Let go of what feels heavy without guilt. If it drains you consistently, it's likely not aligned with where you're headed. There is also an invitation to forgive, not to excuse what hurt you, but to release yourself from carrying its weight. Forgiveness is not approval, it's freedom. You don't need closure from others to move on. Sometimes closure comes when you decide you've learned what you needed to learn. You are learning how to trust your own voice again. Not the voice shaped by fear or expectation, but the quiet, steady one beneath it all. That voice has been patient with you, waiting for you to slow down enough to hear it. Now that you are, it's becoming clearer, stronger, more consistent. There will be moments ahead where you're tempted to fall back into old rhythms because they feel familiar. Familiarity can feel like safety, even when it isn't growth. When that temptation arises, pause and ask yourself whether you're choosing comfort or alignment. The answer will guide you. You've also been learning that not everything needs to be fixed immediately. Some things need space. Some situations resolve themselves when you stop forcing outcomes. Trust that what's meant to stay will stabilize, and what's meant to leave will loosen naturally. You don't have to chase or cling. Your capacity for compassion has expanded, but so has your clarity. You can understand others without absorbing their chaos. You can empathize without rescuing. This balance is essential for where you're going. You are not meant to carry everyone's burdens, only your assignment. There is a quiet joy beginning to surface, subtle but real. Moments of peace that don't depend on circumstances, glimpses of gratitude that arrive without effort. This joy is a sign of alignment. It doesn't shout, it settles, let it grow. You are also being reminded that consistency will matter more than intensity. Show up even when it feels ordinary. Faithfulness in small things creates momentum in unseen ways. Don't underestimate the power of daily alignment. It compounds as the message continues to unfold. You may feel a sense of recognition rather than surprise. Truth often feels familiar, like remembering something you already knew. That's because your spirit recognizes what your mind is still learning to trust. Allow that recognition to anchor you. There is no rush to arrive. Becoming is not a race. Each step you take with awareness strengthens the next. Stay grounded in the present moment. The future will meet you when you're ready, not when you're anxious. You are being prepared to move with grace under pressure, to lead without force, to influence without manipulation. This kind of strength is rare, and it's forged quietly. Honor the process, even when it feels invisible. As you remain open, the message continues to deepen, weaving through your thoughts, settling into your heart, aligning with what you've been sensing all along. There's more clarity coming, more understanding unfolding, more reassurance forming beneath the surface. Stay here, stay receptive, stay willing to listen without rushing to define or conclude, because this unfolding is still in motion, still shaping you, still guiding you forward as the awareness expands, the alignment strengthens, and the message continues to speak in ways that reach beyond words, carrying you further into what is still being revealed. And now, chosen one, let this final moment settle gently into your spirit, not as an ending, but as a sealing. Everything you have heard was not meant to overwhelm you, but to awaken what has already been stirring within. You are not leaving this message the same way you entered it. Something has aligned, something has quieted, something has strengthened. Carry this awareness forward with humility and courage. Move slowly, intentionally, trusting the clarity that now rests inside you. You do not need to force what is coming. You only need to stay aligned with truth, grounded in faith, and open in heart. What unfolds next will meet you at the exact moment you are ready, and when it does, you will recognize that not by noise or urgency, but by peace, certainty, and the calm knowing that you were guided here on purpose, at the right time, and for what comes next.